Well, hello and welcome to the Father's Table. Blake was just giving us a show here. He was singing and dancing.
Let's
Blake, why don't you
go.
give us a little line? Give us some.
I don't know the words to that song, so it's like kind of embarrassing to do it live.
It sounded great to me.
Oh
Um,
yeah, thanks, bro.
well, guys, today we're going to talk about legacy, building a legacy. Last week, we kind of looked back on our lives and just kind of some lessons that we had learned from the past. So I thought it'd be cool this week if we look forward and we look forward into what it means to build a legacy as men, as Christian men, in our families, in the world, and just kind of talk about what that means. I think for us as Christian men, the way we live today can have an eternal impact. It can have an impact for generations. So it's really cool to kind of flush that out and see what that means for us and how we live today, because it's going to last for years to come. So Blake, just to start off, man, what would you say you think of when you hear the word legacy or building a legacy in today's day and age?
Today's day. Well, I think if I was gonna talk to like culture, I think it would be financially. I think a lot of it is financial. I think it's like that idea of building generational wealth, giving your kids something that they can then take further than you did. And I don't think that's a bad idea. In fact, I'm working on that currently. But for me, the way that I view it is really less physical and more eternal. In what relationship am I leaving to my kids with myself, but also what am I demonstrating with a relationship with the Lord? How to build a life centered and focused on Christ, I think is important, because at the end of the day, it's kind of like that one, like when you think about your kids leaving the house. You can only do so much, and then they're 18 and they're gone and they're out of the house and they can kind of make their own decisions. Although now with Gen Gen Z, I'm sure they're going to be staying in the house a little bit longer. But I think it's one of those things where you pour into your kids so much, and then when they're 18, they leave the house. It's you hope that they're making the right decisions. They're trusting their relationship and their walk with the Lord and following the example that you set out before them, but they're also taking it further. And so I think really to kind of sum up that idea is just taking the experiences and the understanding and the wisdom that you have, that you imparted in them, and then taking it further. I think is kind of how I would think about that, including finances, including spirituality, including just basic wisdom, knowledge, everything.
Yeah, I love that. I think in today's day and age, people may think of a legacy and they think of maybe wealth or influence, like you talked about, or they think about just kind of their name that's going to live on after them. But I think it's much more than that. And like you even touched on, it's building a foundation of faith, because that's what's going to last forever.
Yeah.
The money might go away, the influence might go away, even the name will go away, right? Say you have daughters and your name never lives on. That's going to go away too. But what's going to last is the foundation of faith. And when I thought about this, I really thought back, and I don't know personally, like past one, two generations. Like I know my grandparents, I didn't really know my great grandparents. Probably couldn't even tell you their names or their parents or their parents' parents, right? I know that I'm a part of that legacy in some sense because I'm here. And maybe a lot of the negative things follow that and some of the positives too. But that foundation of faith, I think, is the most important, because that's what sticks with our families forever. So I think for us, as we talk through this, how can we build that foundation now so it is a lasting legacy when we do leave this earth?
Yeah. Yeah. But before we move into that question, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that first question.
On what I think legacy is,
Yeah.
I think in today's society, it is that influence piece. It is how much wealth can I build up for that next generation? What kind of influence can I have? How can I make my name great for them? And I think sometimes legacy is even selfish,
Mm,
right? We want to be remembered when we're gone. I always like to think of it as like, what are people going to say about me at my funeral?
hmm.
Which is kind of a weird thing to think about. But then on the other side, it's like, well, who cares? You're not going to be there anyways, right? You're going to be in the casket, and
Yeah.
hopefully your spirit's going to be in heaven.
Yeah.
But what are people going to remember you as? And I think that's important. That question of how are people going to remember you when you're no longer here, because that impact is a big responsibility. If they remember you as just some jerk who they didn't like, then that's how you're gonna die. But if they remember, and Blake was a guy of faith and he loved the Lord and he led me to Christ, or he had an impact on my faith, that's gonna make a lasting impact rather than, some of those other things that we talked about, the more surface level things.
Yeah. No, that's really good. That's really good, man. And I think when I think about this too, I had relationship with my great grandparents on my mom's side, but not my dad's side because they were already gone. And then I knew both my grandparents pretty well. And I think about, especially my mom's side, the faith piece that was there, always kind of ever present. They're your typical Michigan people. They all grew up in Michigan. They worked at GM or Ford plants, and for their whole lives, my grandpa has a big old farm, corn and barley, and just lived that life, but always had a strong foundation on Christ. And even as a young kid, you don't fully grasp it, kind of what it is, what's going on, but as you get older, you kind of look back and you think about that and you're like, wow, that's what that was. And it plays a big role. I think you look at scripture and it talks about how the curses go 2 to 3 generations, but the blessings go to 1,000. And I think part of the life that I'm living now is from the dedication, the commitment, the faith, the prayers, the intentionality that went into faith of my parents, my grandparents, my great grandparents, potentially, and beyond.
Yeah, I love the analogy of a foundation, because sometimes in a house, sometimes you don't even see the foundation of the house. All you can see is the house, or a wall. You don't even see the foundation of the wall, but it's there. And I think for us, we may not know those people by name, or we may not have had a relationship, but that foundation does follow.
Yeah.
And even if it's a shaky foundation, if you've had generation after generation of abuse or neglect or pain or hurt, that shaky foundation is likely still there and you're dealing with the effects of it.
Mm-hmm.
But vice versa, if you have a strong foundation, you're likely going to have a stronger life from that foundation that was built. And then you can continue to add on top of that, and then the next generation can add on top of that.
Yeah.
And if you are one of those people who didn't grow up with a strong foundation, I would encourage you and say it's not too late. Like, you can be the change. You can fix that foundation in your household. And I think that's hopefully what we're going to flush out today. I love Psalm 112, 1 and 2. It said, "Blessed is the man who fears the Lord, who greatly delights in his commandments. His offspring will be mighty in the land. The generation of the upright will be blessed." And that's talking about the foundation of faith, which is the fear of the Lord, right? And I want to dive into that a little bit too, because when I first heard that verse as an early Christian, I kind of misconstrued what the fear of the Lord was.
Mm-hmm.
But in your personal experience, Blake, how would you say that the fear of the Lord has helped you in your parenting, in your just daily life as a Christian, to build that foundation of faith?
Yeah, I mean, scripture says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, right? And I think that the fear of the Lord is such a bad English word for what it actually means. It's more of a reverence. It's more of a awe. You're in awe of the Lord. Now, sometimes when you're in awe of somebody, it can lead you to do things that would push them higher. Like, let's say that you have a celebrity crush or somebody that you really admire in culture, and you meet them and you're like, holy smokes, like that's so and so, and you feel that kind of like starstruck. It's kind of that idea, that feeling, and I think for me that's played a really important role in my life of where God is seated. It's allowed me to make decisions that I wouldn't be able to make on my own. I would even say sometimes there is a healthy fear, like a real fear of what we know to be fear. And I don't think that's ultimately a bad thing. I don't think you save people by scaring them to hell, but I think there is a certain part of that that's not unhealthy. Like, I think there's a healthy fear there of being like, okay, like, I've got to do this because I know that that's what the Lord wants. And if I don't do it, I don't want to let him down. I don't want to disappoint him. Some may think of that as wrong. Some may think that, oh, that's not God's character. He's going to love you regardless. I don't know. Just the way that my relationship with the Lord is and the way that it works for me is like, I don't want to fall short. I'm going to strive to do everything I can to please God and live up to his standard and his expectation, and not out of works, because we aren't saved by our works. It's by faith alone. But I think for me, it helps me strive to be better. It helps me strive to hit the mark. And as an athlete, as an extremely competitive person, that's just how I'm wired. And so for me, I'm okay with that. I lean into that. Some people need to lean more on grace, and some people need to lean more on like, oh, this like kind of like hippy dippy love with the Lord. That's fine. But for me in my walk, like the fear and the reverence of the Lord has played a huge part in driving me to want to be more like Him. And not saying that I walk around in fear, because the Lord hasn't given a spirit of fear. That's not what I'm saying. Is it's just this check. It's like, okay, am I doing the right thing? Like, is this what the Lord's calling me to do? It almost just is that extra pause before you make a decision or you act out or whatever it may be, whatever the scenario is. Like, am I supposed to do this? Well, I kind of feel that presence of the Lord. Like, I know He knows my heart. He knows, He sees my thoughts, and He knows me. And so ultimately, it helps me to make the right decision, and ultimately helped me to build a really strong foundation of faith.
Yeah, I think I love that you change that word into reverence. I also think it's a respect, right? Like you respect the Lord. And I think with respect, a lot of times there is kind of a fear, and not necessarily like a negative fear. Like I
Yeah,
think fear has a negative connotation, but man, I respect you so much, I don't want to let you down. Like
yeah,
that's fear, right?
exactly.
So I think having that of the Lord and saying like, God, like you created me, I fall short, I don't deserve your love, but you give it to me anyways. I'm
Yeah,
so thankful for that.
amen.
I want to live from that, and I want to do what's honoring to you. I think that's what that reverence or that fear kind of comes in. And I think the same is true with parenting, right? I think sometimes our kids have that, like they don't want to let dad down or they
Yeah,
don't want to let mom down. And that might be fear, but again, it's not like I'm scared of you. It's like I'm scared to let you down because I value you so much. I
yeah,
think that's true in a lot of relationships, right? Whether it's a marriage relationship or a friendship, you might have a similar kind of fear. I think with God, it's just magnified so much more because of who He is and who we are as Christians.
and I think for that idea too, like I think even just in normal life, like I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think making now not every decision, obviously, not living in that, but I think that a component of that in your life or situationally in your life, I think that's a good thing. Like I think it's a good thing to make a decision out of, you know what, I don't want to let this person down, and this is the right decision to make. Although my mind or my heart or whatever you want to say is telling me to go the other way, I know it's going to let this person down. I don't want to make that decision and let them down. So I'm going to choose the right thing. Sometimes it's just more of like a redirection and kind of like a correcting of maybe the wrong decision. And again, it's not every time, it's not all the time, but I think that components or situationally, it can be really helpful and really beneficial in our lives, just in general, and also in our life in Christ.
I absolutely agree. I think it's important for us. I don't think we do this enough. I don't think that we really take into consideration our actions and the ripple effect that they have later on down the road. Like I think we in today's society are so quick to make action based off what's right in front of us. We don't take the time to think, okay, what would God think of this decision, or how is this going to impact me later on, or how is this going to impact my family later on? One of the things I always tell my son and my daughter, I say choices have consequences. And I want you to think in the moment, you're about to make a choice. I want you to think through the consequence. So I think that's important for us to realize too, especially when building a legacy. The choices that we're making today, what is
Mm,
that going to do to our legacy tomorrow? What is that going to do to our kids' legacy 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 100 years from now? I think we're so good at thinking on such a small scale, we don't blow it up to think long term. And I think that could be dangerous in some situations.
yeah, and I think there's power in living in the now, like living in the moment, living in your current space. Like I think you can miss out on opportunities, and you can just miss out on life when you're too focused on the future. But I think that there's also time and places to be thinking about, hey, how are we setting ourselves up here? I know, like for Christine and I right now, it's really big, that we just hit our 1 year, of owning a home, and typically you are the most broke in your life the first year after you buy a home. And that was definitely true for us. Thankfully, the Lord's been gracious and given me a good job and opportunities for her and things like that to be able to sustain and kind of build upon it. But right now, we're kind of this is the first time in our lives where we're kind well. Yeah, this is the first time in our lives where we're kind of like looking up and like, okay, we need to start planning aggressively financially for our future, setting up accounts for the boys in colleges, starting to invest in stock market stuff, obviously having the 401k going already, but like, looking at those types of investments and things that are going to help us build wealth here on earth for our future kids, and just being good. I think the Christianese version of that would be being good stewards of what God has given us. And I think this is the first season where Christina and I have really been able to kind of put our heads together and be like, okay, we are doing okay here financially. Let's really dwindle down what our expenses are, like cutting out some unnecessary things, limiting our like grocery bills, not eating out, things like that, doing the right things, getting rid of all the debt that we accumulated, but really looking at, okay, all the excess that we have, where's that going to go, and how are we going to steward that to get the most out of it, leaving room for being gracious hosts, leaving room for blessing people, like getting ourselves margin in our finances to bless others when we need to. Like not having to think about like if we are out to dinner with somebody, paying for somebody's meal and it's like not a big deal, or helping out a friend. I know recently we went over to, there's one of our church families, their daughter was going on a DC trip for class, and like going and just like supporting her to make it to the trip. Things like that where you just have to be like wise with your money and leave margin for those things. Because if you're constantly thinking about me and what my family needs now, you're going to miss out on opportunities to bless others, but also building that wealth in the future.
Yeah, I think that's being intentional. You have to be intentional not only with finances, but every decision. You have
Yeah.
to strike that balance between intentionality and not thinking too much about the future while planning for the future,
Yeah.
but also not just living in the now and not being intentional at all.
Yeah.
I think it's a balance. I think you have to practice those choices daily where it becomes second nature, right? It's like I've put these processes into place for our finances. We've put this process into place for our family unit, and now it's easier to make those decisions in the moment. Whereas early on, it might be a little bit more planning. You might
Yeah.
have to sit down and talk through some of that stuff to get a budget in place or to get, whatever it is, that system in place for your family. And then later on, it can become easy. I think sometimes we skip that intentionality part, that
Yeah.
planning part, and we just try to wing it. And I think that can be dangerous.
For sure. And I think too, like, I think people think no matter what, because I mean, by now, by no means am I saying like we're filthy rich, but we were definitely at a place previously where we didn't have money and we lived paycheck to paycheck. We kind of went through a few phases of life, and now are kind of coming to the other end where we're feeling more comfortable financially. And I think for it's surprising how much we tell ourselves, especially in America, that we don't have enough,
Mm.
and how much that hinders our ability to build a legacy now. And what I mean by that is, are you held captive to what people are telling you to buy? Marketing, commercials, friends, social media influencers, whatever. Are you held captive by what they are telling you to buy, and you're just buying it because people are telling you, or do you actually need it? I mean, even to like tonight, for example, we made flatbread, and we made pizza on Friday, and then we had leftover dough and made flatbread tonight.
What's the difference?
Well, the dough is the same; it's just thicker.
Okay.
So what we did, we it's thicker. The pizza was thicker, and we put it in the oven, whereas the flatbread we made on a cast iron.
Mm.
Anyway, and it's thinner. Anyways, I say all that to say, like, we very easily could have went out and bought the pizza and the flatbread at like a restaurant, and or went to the store and bought it, but significantly cheaper just to make it at home. A little bit more work, but we're in that phase of life where we're like, we don't need to go out and spend the extra money for convenience. We don't need that. We can just make it here. It takes a little bit of extra time, but whatever. Like, we'll figure it out. And it ends up being more fun and you more fulfilling when you do stuff like that. Or like, hey, let's get a little bit creative. We needed glasses the other day, like coffee cups. And instead of buying them off of Amazon, where we could have probably found them pretty cheap, We went to Goodwill and we found them for $1. And so it's like we normally wouldn't go to Goodwill. We're not Goodwill people. We just haven't gone in that world. But then we were like, hey, we're kind of trying to be more conscious with finances and saving here so we can, get blessed or give blessings there. And that was one of the things that we can do. And it ends up being more enjoyable because you feel accomplished when you do it in the moment. And then you're like, oh, wait, instead of spending $15 at the store or at Amazon and having it delivered, I spent $5 at Goodwill. There's $10 that I can use for something else. Maybe that's putting into a savings fund. Maybe I'm just setting aside for another thing. And that, stacked up over time really helps. And so it's kind of fun when you get into those seasons of life.
You brought up a point that I haven't really thought of, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. How does convenience affect legacy? Because I think that's what we're searching. I think that's what we're searching
It's a
for
great
in today's
question.
day and age is convenience, right? How can I get this thing quick, easy, cheap, whatever? Like we want convenience. We want it now. And that's how we live our lives.
Yeah.
That's how our lives are built. A lot of it is like, hey, I'm going to just stay home. I'm going to order food to my house. I'm going to order Amazon to my house. I'm never going to have to leave. It's convenient. I'm just going to be a couch potato on the couch. How does that impact our legacy for future generations, and where does it have us going? That's kind of scary to think of. Is that if we can order food and groceries and Amazon to our house now, where does that leave our kids in 10 years?
Dude, that's a great question. That's a great question. I mean, I think that convenience completely kills legacy. I mean, I don't think it would be a stretch to say that there's nobody who's left a lasting legacy that was living a convenient life.
Mm. Let's take Michael Jordan, for example. One of the greatest, right, of all time. You can argue, right? Some people might say LeBron. I know you're on the LeBron kick. Some people might say Kobe, but take all three of those guys if you
Yeah.
want. They didn't take the easy route.
Mm-mm.
We agree on that. They didn't take the
Absolutely.
convenient route. They didn't take the miracle drug that helped them perform better, quicker, right? They put in the hard work, and it took a long time. They grinded it out, and they got to a point where they became great because of that hard work.
Yeah.
Now people are taking that away. Man, even with losing weight, me and Gracia were talking about this. Like there's like you see the commercials for like Ozempic, right? And it's like I'm gonna lose weight super quick, and it's kind of getting rid of that traditional like going to the gym, eating better, doing
Yeah.
all that. So it's like we're searching for convenience in every aspect of life, but I think we don't realize the lasting impact that that's going to have later on down the road.
Yeah.
It's just making us lazier, right? It's teaching our kids to be lazy. It's like, hey, just look for the quickest fix to get the problem solved. And that's a lot of even work today. It's like, how can you get from A to B the fastest
Yeah.
and the cheapest and the quickest? So I think you're right, man. I think that does kill legacy in a lot of ways because nobody's going to remember that. Like nobody's going to remember how quick you did something or,
Yeah.
it's just, I think it's a legacy killer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think convenience is definitely a legacy killer. I think you can quote us, hashtag it, post it,
You heard it here
but
first.
that's coming. I mean, I think that's such a good point. Is like convenience kills legacy, dude. It's like if you live in convenience, and maybe it's just one area that you're maybe living in convenience, but I think you can get away with it. But if you're living a convenient life, you're never going to build a legacy. Like nothing good comes from convenient, like a convenience. It's nice in the moment. It's nice for that person that might be in the convenient lifestyle, but no great thing comes from that. It's average, it's boring, it's, subpar at best. You do have to work for legacy. And I think that looking into fatherhood, looking into friendship, looking into marriage, it's like if you're living in convenience in those areas, how can you build a legacy that people care about? I mean, your family, maybe just because they love you, but like anything outside of that, like that's not going to go anywhere. You have to be intentional. You have to work hard. You have to do these things that are not convenient, but they build a legacy. And so I think that's powerful. I like that.
Yeah, and I even think just stories of the Bible. I think of just like the greats, man, like Noah or Abraham. Like they had to struggle for their legacy, right? It wasn't easy. They had to go through a lot of trials. They had to, spend years in the desert. They had to almost sacrifice their son. They had to do a lot of things to build their legacy. And then I think of a guy like David, right? If he, in the sense of convenience, saw Bathsheba, and then he's like, oh, there's a woman right there. I'm just going to have sex with her. And look to where that led him, right? To all the problems that led to him. And he ended up killing somebody because of it. And that's what convenience brought onto him. Whereas these other guys, man, they struggled for the legacy. Not to say they were perfect by any means, but legacy is a struggle. And I think we see that in the story of Jesus, right? Like Jesus could have so easily took the convenient way out from the very beginning when he was tempted in the desert by the devil. He could have just said, I'm going to eat, I'm going to turn these rocks into bread. I'm going to eat.
Yeah.
I'm hungry. I'm going to end it here. He had the power to do that, but he decided to take the long, hard road so that we can have eternal life. Because if he wouldn't have, then we would still be dead in our sin.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, I've never really thought of convenience and legacy in that way, but I'm glad we've arrived at this point, because it's going to make me even think about that differently. Because, man, I'll be the first person to say I love convenience, right? I love Amazon. My wife especially loves Amazon.
Watch this, Gracia.
We like convenience. We like fast food, and I've gotten into this health kick recently about eating better and just even the convenience in food today and the health effects that has lasting on us. We don't realize that, right? We don't realize that it's affecting our health. And there's so many different ways that convenience affects us long term. And we just have to be cognizant of that. We have to be intentional, like we talked about earlier. We have to live every day reflecting our commitment just to building on that foundation that we mentioned earlier. And we have to lead by example for our kids to do the same, because the habits that we have now, we're going to pass that on to our kids even worse, and they're going to pass it on their kids even worse. So what are some ways we can lead by example in these moments? I know we talked about financially, but what are some practical ways for maybe parents or soon-to-be parents or future parents to lead by example for their family as they build a legacy?
I think, to that same point, I think it's just maybe looking for what areas you are finding the most convenient, and start there. I think, maybe complacent is another word to think about. Like, find an area that you are complacent in, that you don't want to be complacent in. And I think just starting there. So let's take health for example, and I'll kind of use some of your words, is like, maybe you're not working out, maybe you're not eating well. And so how can you start to set yourself up for success in that way? Because ultimately what's going to happen, and you see it now all the time in America, but like, you take the convenient option in going to a fast food restaurant now, and it's like, yeah, it may seem like it's a little bit cheaper now. It may seem like it's a little bit easier now. It may seem like it's a little bit whatever now. But in 10, 20 years, that compounded over those years, you're going to end up paying even more for it later on when you're 45 and you can barely get out of bed because you got rheumatoid arthritis, and you got some sort of, I'm not even being funny either. It's like, it's a real thing. You have some sort of like autoimmune disease that comes, and it's just like habits over time where you were complacent, you were content with that convenient lifestyle, and it leads to some not so good lasting legacy.
I agree. I just think out of all the things you came up with, rheumatoid.
I was listening to a podcast today. They were talking a lot about rheumatoid arthritis, and so it was top of mind. But, it's just like, it's one of those things where it's just like, you take that convenient road, and you can only take that convenient road for so long, take those shortcuts for so long, till you kind of it gets caught up with you. And you can look at pretty much anything. I mean, I even think about in my job, there's somebody that works at my company that has a name for themselves for not really working all that much. And in sales, that's a death sentence. You can only ride that wave for so long till it catches up with you, till you don't really know your customers, you don't have a good pipeline and things like that. And I just think about this person. This person likes to be on a Wednesday afternoon at the salon, and you're like, what are you doing? And like, knowing this person's customers, and they're like, does that person still work there? You hear stuff
Mhm.
like that, and you're like, it's convenient now until you have someone breathing down your neck to hit a number, and you're kind of out of luck at that point.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if that's really practical. I think I would need a specific area to get super practical, but I think maybe identifying an area that you'd like to leave a lasting legacy, and see where you're kind of taking the convenient route as opposed to the longer lasting route.
Yeah. I think of the verse in Proverbs, train up a child in the way they should
Mm,
go,
yeah,
and then when they're old, they won't depart from it. I think that that verse is kind of a double-edged sword because the way you train your child up is the way that they're going to go in their life most of the time, right? Most of the time. If you raise them in the foundation of faith, hopefully they carry on that faith. But also if you raise them with those bad habits, seeking convenience, seeking the quick easy fix,
yeah,
that's probably the way that they're going to live the rest of
yeah,
their lives. So it's kind of a double-edged sword in that regard. And I think that's why it's so important for us as men and as fathers to lead by example in that,
yeah,
to make the hard choices, to make the uncomfortable choices so that our children could see that. And even our wives could see that, right? We're even called to lead our wives. How are we leading as a husband? And if you're not married, how are you leading yourself now for your future family?
yeah,
How are you leading, in a boyfriend girlfriend relationship? How are you leading yourself at work to those people around you? Because the way that people see you is the way that people are going to think of Christ, right?
yeah,
Because we're Christ's representatives as Christians here on this earth. So if we are just going along with the crowd and doing everything the crowd's doing, then people are going to say, "What's different about you as a
yeah,
Christian?" Right? They're not going to think anything's different. So we do have to make those hard choices when it comes to legacy, and we do have to be intentional, and we do have to think through a lot of those things, especially as parents, right? Kids watch you, and we go through this. My daughter's 2, and she parrots everything. So if I say something, she's likely going to repeat it,
yeah,
right? And sometimes you're like, "Oh, I didn't want you to repeat that," right? So you have to think through a lot of things when you have young children, especially because they're going to follow in your footsteps.
yeah. Which is an honor. It's really cool to see that. It can be a real pain in the butt sometimes, but
That's for sure.
it is really cool to see like when they begin to do the things that you teach them or that you do. That's good. That's positive. We'll stay on that train. I think it's funny because I call my mom the street sweeper. Because whenever we're at her house, you leave, like, let's say that you have a glass and you put it on the countertop. You walk out of the room and it's in the dishwasher. So we call it a street sweeper because nothing's able to just like sit on the counter. And I definitely picked up that habit. And now Landon has picked up that habit, my youngest. And he was at like I don't know, like a kids group thing. Christina goes to this thing called MOPS, and he was in like the kids room. And one of the teachers, when she picked him up, said, "Oh yeah, he's definitely our tidiest little helper." And she said that he was like going around and like cleaning up all the messes rather than playing. He was just kind of like going around and like cleaning up all the other kids' messes and like organizing stuff. And it's funny the things that they pick up. But I mean, I don't think organization is a bad thing.
No, it's great.
But it's just kind of funny, those things that they pick up, good and bad. You can even laugh about it sometimes when they say some stuff, and you're like, "Oh shoot!" Like, dang it, they kind of caught that one, but that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about legacy, for us, I think the most prevalent thing we can think about right now is kids, right? Because we're in that stage, we're in the thick of it, we have young kids. But I think legacy expands further than that, further than just our kids. I think it expands to the people we come into contact with. Like you talked about earlier, are we being generous? Are we giving to others? And that could be money, that could be time, that could be talents. Are you giving to others? Because I think the way that we interact with others is going to make a lasting impact on them. And hopefully that's going to make a lasting impact on others because they're going to see us do it and they're going to do it. And the next person, it's just going to be this huge ripple effect. And I think that is in all areas of life, whether it's in church, whether it's at work, whether it's at the amusement park, whatever. At our college graduation, they had a keynote speaker, and he said something that stuck with me to this day. He's like, if you're somewhere and you see a piece of trash, pick it up. Like, that's something simple, right? It's so simple. but that has a ripple effect, right? It might be small, it might be the next person comes in and it's cleaner, and it's not necessarily about the act of picking up the trash. It's you just being cognizant that what you see and what you do is going to have a lasting impact on others as they interact with you or as they interact with the world around you. I love at Starbucks. I don't know if you've ever been to a Starbucks and the person like in front of you pays for you and it kind of ripples, right?
They
It's a
pay it
ripple.
forward.
Yeah, pay it forward. And it's something so small, right? Unless somebody gets like 20 breakfast sandwiches and, 7 coffees, and you're like, I'm actually going to skip that order. But I'm
And
not going to say it,
your order amount will be $1,000 and 52 cents. Thank you.
especially at Starbucks these days, man.
Yeah, that's it.
But I love that picture because it's just, again, a small way to show you how one act of kindness can ripple, right? And one act of generosity can ripple. And that's what the Bible preaches, right? It talks about generosity, it talks about giving talents and treasures. And I think sometimes we're so reluctant to do that because it's an inconvenience to us. The
Yeah,
opposite of what we're talking about. I worked hard for this paycheck. I don't want to give my money away. Or, I don't want to help you move because I'd rather sit and watch the game at home or whatever it is, right? It's inconvenient to us to be generous. But once we are generous, the ripples so great. And I think on the flip side of that, when you're not generous, the ripple could have negative effects as well.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Don't take the convenient road. Take the road less traveled.
Take the road less
I
traveled.
was hoping to find some sort of like song lyric within my brain somewhere, but it didn't come. Just leave the people on the song lyric at the end.
Yeah, well, that leads us into riding off in the sunset.
Yeah,
We
we
can
gotta come
take
up with
the.
a song, dude.
You had one for us earlier. You were rocking.
I'm
Don't say any
gonna
words. We don't
take
want to get. No,
you
we don't want to get
there.
copyrighted. He didn't say the words.
No, I was just talking with
He
a
was just
beat,
saying that in a
with a
sentence.
beat,
Yeah,
with
there
a
we go.
beat,
There
with
we
a beat.
go.
All right, bro. It's my turn. It's my turn.
For
Blasted by
Blasted by
Blake.
Blake,
Let's
let's
go.
go. It's
It's
sticking.
coming, bro. It's coming. Come on, bro. Come on, dude. He said it's sticky. Out of control. Come
Come
on,
on.
bro.
I wasn't even thinking
We're
like
trying
that.
to do family stuff here. Come on. All right. Ready? Hold on,
I'm ready.
let me make sure my alarm's on. Bet.
Can I just ask before we get started, why are you wearing a Chargers hat? Oh,
No. SD all day.
no. They're not even the
Bro,
SD
get out of
Chargers
here,
anymore.
bro. Mr. Flip Flop teams over here.
No, we're not even
Like LA. Like the Dodgers. I
What's wrong with
like
like
Alabama.
what's wrong with liking the Dodgers?
I like Tom Brady.
Tom Brady's a good guy. He's not like my
I
favorite.
like Michael Jordan.
I don't like basketball much at all. Keep on going.
I was just trying to think of other people. I like Lionel Messi.
I don't watch
All the
soccer.
best.
I don't watch hockey. Is that because I'm white, Blake? That I like hockey?
I just named all the sports. Phil Mickelson.
You didn't name cricket or rugby or
I couldn't name one person that plays it. Chase Budinger, shouts out, San Diego, La Costa Canyon.
LCC.
Yeah, baby.
Okay.
Chase Budinger. He played U of A and then got drafted in the NBA, played for like 7-8 years, quit when played professional volleyball. He was in the Olympics this last year.
Nice.
Stud.
Okay. Did you know him personally?
No. Played against him. Kicked our butt. Is what it is. All right, ready?
Nope.
Here we go. Blasted by Blake. 1 minute. What's one thing you're passionate about outside of work or school?
I'm not gonna say family because that's the easy answer. I think just getting men more involved in their families.
I love it. What's one thing you're looking forward to doing in this next year that you haven't done before?
Going to Hawaii.
What's your favorite book or movie and why?
My favorite book or movie, I think my favorite book is Play the Man because it talks about manhood and it's given me a lot of great tips. And yeah,
I love that. What's your favorite hobby?
my favorite hobby recently has been going on a bike ride.
Nice. Road or mountain?
It's on the road with a mountain bike.
You're one of those guys.
It's all
You
I
guys
got.
have plenty of mountain biking out there.
Yeah, but it's like not a great mountain bike to where you should go on a mountain. It's like one of those just cheap mountain bikes that probably should stay on the road.
They're in the garage.
Stay in the garage.
I have one of those, except I use it just to tow the boys. We have like one of those little buggies that they get in and it attaches to the back of the bike and
But you also rode bike. You got the little
Yeah, I
shorty
have.
shorts with the lock-in shoes
Yeah, dude, clip-in shoes, baby.
and
Speed plays.
that long like pointy helmet that goes back.
I do. Not the long one, but I do have the like road bike helmet. The
And
only
every
thing I need is now the big road bike glasses that are like this big with the reflectors. I call them the hater blockers
okay.
because
You
these
have a
haters can't
little
see
rear
me.
view mirror on your bike too?
No, but I want one of those too. Like for real, for real. I want one on the helmet, one that like hangs down from the
The
helmet.
one that's just like abnormally long
Yeah, it just
every
like
time.
hangs out from the side, and you just kind of do the little peek over, and you're like, "Doo-doo." You can see somebody behind you. Also, it's like that competitor in me. It's like I put it on my helmet so that if somebody's coming up behind me, I can start to speed up because I don't let anybody pass me.
Who are you racing on this bike?
Anybody, dude, anybody who's on the road is an automatic opponent.
Just a mom walking her
Yeah, it
kids. You're
doesn't
like,
matter. It
not
doesn't. It does
today.
not matter. They could be 90 years old, like just cruising. I'm racing them. And usually, what I'll try and do is I'll find somebody that's like way far out, and I'll be like, all right, bet.
Catch up to them.
And I remember one time. This is the last thing, and then we'll go right off into the sunset. I had this. So there's a big hill that I ride on my typical ride, and I remember, oh, dude, I was cranking up this hill, like I thought I was flying, and then this dude, this smaller dude, big old calves, bro, just flew past me. Not on an electric bike, dude, was just like busting up this hill, and I was so deflated. I was like, I truly thought I was like killing it. And I was like, dude, nobody could catch me. And then all of a sudden, this guy just zips past me, and I'm like, are you kidding?
That
And
was
that,
like Michael Jordan and LeBron James. You were LeBron James and he was Michael Jordan.
no, actually, it was just I was being complacent at that moment.
Oh, yep.
Yep,
Complacency.
yep,
Not good.
complacency. Yep,
Awesome. Well, Father's Table, we're going to ride off into the sunset.
yep.
Make sure to like and
Like,
subscribe to this
subscribe,
podcast.
follow.
Follow us on Instagram. And yeah, we want to get more involved with you guys. So if you could send us an email, thefatherstablepod@gmail.com, or if you want to send us a message on Instagram, write a comment. We'd love to answer some of your guys' questions. Talk about what you want us to talk about. We've been talking about having a guest on maybe in these next couple episodes. So stay
Mm-hmm,
tuned for
mm-hmm.
that. But until then, we're going to ride off into the sunset.
Let's go.
Peace.